Our guest in this segment is Larry Pack. He is the treasurer of the state. Larry, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity. And that's very impressive to have a vehicle with that many miles on it. Very, very good.
It is the second most I've ever gotten. I had a Jetta that got to 396, 363, but it died 18 years ago, I guess it was. So I never thought I'd be able to get another vehicle close to 4, Mr. Pack. I believe I'm close.
Well, you definitely take better care of your vehicles than I do. So generally, by the time I get up around 200,000, they're pretty wore out and beat up.
I've got some ace mechanics down the street from me. They're pretty good at what they do.
Good deal. Good deal.
I want to ask you some questions about the Hope Scholarship,
yes.
and the first of those is we've done. This is last week was School Choice Week. We've talked even this week. We've done some interviews on this to some folks who are involved in administering or running private schools. The Hope Scholarship money, once a student in a private school gets it, and then ultimately, say in November, decides to transfer back to a public school, I've talked to public school officials who have said the money doesn't follow the student back. We talked to an administrator yesterday that says, yes, we have to fill out a prorated form, and indeed we do have to give the money back to the state. But the public schools are saying that they're not necessarily seeing that money. Do you have any idea, Larry, what the actual facts are when it comes to money and students who bounce between a private school and a public school during the year?
First of all, I'd say that the number of students that come from a private school or homeschool situation back to public school was really, really small. So it just really doesn't happen that often. But with most things, when it's related to government, getting the money back in the right place and prorating the money is a little bit clunky. I think the systems are getting better. But the way we count students in public school is we have a particular date when that happens. I think it's October 15th or somewhere in October, and that's how the school funding calculations are driven off of there. So there are some mechanisms to get the money back or a portion of the money back in the public schools. It's a little clunky. I think we're working. Everybody's working. Department of Ed, Treasurer's also works to do a little bit better job in getting that to them, getting back there. But it's a small number. It's really minuscule. It's just something we don't see very often. And of course, if you don't see it very often, maybe the system is not as smooth as possible. But we'll continue to work on that and try to make sure that we get the money in the right direction. What we're seeing, we're seeing really the complete opposite, right? So we're seeing more and more parents take advantage of school choice opportunities through the Hope Scholarship Program. That's one of the reasons the program continues to grow. Parents, and this is a nationwide phenomenon, right? School choices is rolling across the nation, where parents want to take charge of their children's education. I'm a parent of 6, and once you get by their salvation, and your salvation, of course, is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But once you get past that, I don't think there's anything parents pray about or worry about anymore than the education of their children. Now with the Hope Scholarship Program, which I was proud to vote for, parents have a choice. In the past, most of those choices for private education or education alternatives was for higher income people. There really weren't for if you're lower middle income people, they just didn't have the money to consider, a private school. Now they do, and I think we're seeing a lot of parents and students take advantage of that program.
The guidelines that were initially in place for the Hope Scholarship are expiring, and then I think in next year it opens up to everybody, regardless of whether you're already in a private school or homeschooled or in the public school. And Larry, what are the projected costs of the Hope Scholarship at that point?
Well, there's a lot of numbers moving around, but you're exactly right. So when the original bill was placed in, it was the Hope Scholarship was a little bit more limited. My colleague, my seatmate in the House, Adam Burkhammer from Lewis County Weston, put in an amendment to open it up to all students, basically all parents, for the 26-27 school year. So we're seeing, like the first year, I think we had 2,000 students. Now we're at about 10,000 students. I think we may be at 18 or 20,000 students for next year. We're not really sure what 26-27 looks like, but there's a lot of estimates out there. So I think probably the highest estimate I've seen is in the $280 million range. Is probably the high, and then of course there's lots of different lower ones. We think that it's easier to project closer in than it is further out. So we believe, matter of fact, in my prior job, we put in for the 26 budget, 25-26 budget that Governor Morsi will be presenting his budget next week. But we thought that it would be about $100 million for next year. So the program is expanding. It is more expensive. Our Supreme Court decided a few years ago that this money could not come from the public school system or the public school funding system. It had to come out of general or special revenue. So it's an additional expenditure in the state budget, but in our state budget, it's over $5 billion. So I believe there's plenty of room to be able to take care of school choice for parents.
So is the dollar figure you quoted, the estimate, Larry, is that additional or total?
Total. So we have the 26-27 school year. The probably the highest estimate I've seen is somewhere around $280 million. So that would mean that it would go from this next fiscal year of approximately $100 million to the one after that to approximately $280 million, if those estimates are true. Are accurate. And again, we don't know, right? We don't know how many parents are going to take advantage of these school choice alternatives. But it's always good to, on the expense side, to estimate a little bit high. So we're assuming that's the number. But again, I really believe that the state budget can handle it.
How is the annual formula for the amount that is to be distributed calculated?
It is calculated a little bit complicated, but there is an inflation factor. It's really calculated a little bit like the school funding formula is, and basically the design is that it should be the state share of the school funding formula. So the school funding formula is made up of local share, it's made up of state share. So it should be the state share of the formula, and then just the way the school funding formula works, there's a little bit of an inflation. So for this current year, 24-25, it was the amount was $4,900 rough. We think for the 25-26 year, next school year, will be $5,200. So we'll go from $4,900 to about $5,200. So it will increase a little bit on the dollar amount each year. It's roughly an inflation factor, but it takes in a lot of different mechanisms. The school funding thing was originally put forth by a judge in Ohio County. And it's been in place for about 40 years, and so there's about 12 different calculations that go in to get to the final number that comes back to the various counties.
When this was passed, there was concern amongst the legislature that the private schools that charge tuition would inflate their tuition rates because of the Hope Scholarship money that would be coming in. So we can charge more if the parent's getting more, was the theory. Sort of what colleges did to abuse the federal guarantee of student loans with the way they jacked up tuitions. Is there an oversight of any sort that you're aware of, Larry, out of your office or anywhere else that monitors what the going rate for private school tuition is in the state to make sure that sort of price gouging isn't happening?
No, there's not. I mean, we are not in the business of telling private schools, alternative schools, what to charge. I've heard that. I call it nothing more than a rumor that may happen. I'm really seeing the complete opposite. I'm seeing private schools, or I would say non-public schools, ramp up to be able to bring in more parents. One of the beauties of the Hope Scholarship is lower income people. Parents can take advantage of it. So I'm not seeing that. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I'm seeing quite the reverse. I'm just seeing a lot of them wrestle with how do we take care of more students? What does that look like? What's it take? What's it do? So I don't think that's going to happen. But generally the market will take care of because the private schools have a lot of competition. Whether it's micro schools or the online schools. So they can't just charge anything they want. And again, it's West Virginia, so people only have so much money. So I don't think that would happen. Most of the private schools are church-based. So I would not expect that to happen. But it's something we all need to monitor and watch.
Good morning, Larry. This is John Gilstrap.
Hey, John.
The new administration is starting with they're going to announce a $400 million deficit in the state. I get lost in the division of labor between the Treasurer's Office and the legislature. So what is your role? What will your role be as treasurer in terms of fixing the $400 million deficit or wrangling the $400 million deficit?
Sure. Yeah. So the treasurer's role is, think of it as treasurer is the chief financial officer. So just in the private sector, chief financial officer gives advice to the CEO, and government speak, that'd be the governor, gives advice to the board of directors, and government speak, that'd be the legislature. So we give a lot of advice as to where we think things ought to do. Now, we also operate a lot of different programs. We have about 12 different divisions and so forth. But with the budget per se, what you'll see next Wednesday night is Governor Morsi will present to the legislature his budget for the 25-26 year. So that budget will include his revenue number, and there's what he thinks what he says that the state will bring in next year. It also have his budget priorities, and although the state government budget operates with more zeros, it's really not a lot different than your household budget, right? You have things you have to do, right? You have needs and you have wants. So he'll have his needs and his wants, and he'll put them all in a package, and then the legislature will evaluate those needs and wants. From Treasurer's Office, we'll weigh in as to what we think is appropriate and what we agree with, what we disagree with, and then after 60 days, hopefully we'll come out with a budget. With respect to the $400 million, I think neither the legislature, I know myself, we're not exactly sure where those numbers are coming from. Those numbers are different than what I saw when I left the Revenue Secretary's office a few months ago. But it makes sense, right? Like, for example, if my wife and I did separate household budgets, our budgets would look very, very different because, her needs and wants and my needs and wants are a little bit different. So we'll reconcile those things, kind of see exactly where it is and what's going on, and I'm sure we'll be able to have a balanced budget. West Virginia's done it for 160, 170 years. We'll be able to do it for one more. But we are excited to see his priorities, the way what he thinks is important, and how it all kind of fits together. So it should be an exciting night next Wednesday.
Maria.
Good morning, Larry. Maria Lawrenson here.
Good morning.
So I put in quotes. You said that that the Treasurer's Office will weigh in. So then what is the role afterwards? So you guide and direct. You meet, obviously, with people from the executive branch. If you take a gander and say, oh, this is just not going to work, how much, again, you're new at this job and the governor's new at his job. So maybe there's not a lot of that, but how do you foresee that sort of happening, working together?
Well, it's again, this is a very exciting time in Washington, D.C., but it's also a very exciting time in West Virginia because we have so many new faces and new places. And that in itself is going to be interesting just to see how all those dynamics work. For the last two and a half years, I've studied the state budget extensively, so I have pretty strong thoughts as to what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing and how we should do it. So I'll absolutely, in the right way, share my thoughts as to the directions we should go. I expect to get behind Governor Morsi and his budget. Again, I need to see it first. So there'll be a lot of behind-the-scenes discussions, but there'll be some out-front stuff too, and we'll just have to kind of see exactly how it works. But when you think of the Treasurer's Office, in addition to advice, we're the group that can give more longer-term views and look kind of where West Virginia is going. And so I look forward to doing that and sharing. Do we think this is the right direction or not? We'll do that, but we'll do it in the right way, in a respectful way. In the Treasurer's Office, we want Governor Morsi to be successful. If Governor Morsi is successful, West Virginia will move forward and be successful as well. I really think this is going to be a really great 4 years for West Virginia. And again, I'm excited about next week.
Treasurer Larry Pack, our guest here on the program. Did you have a question, John?
Yeah. Does a treasurer have a strategic role in shaping policy, or are you a monitoring and enforcement role?
I think when it comes to the budget really is in our system it's the governor's budget. He will present his budget. The legislature will generally, in my history, make amendments to it. So he has the upper hand on the budget as far as setting the priorities for West Virginia. That's the way our system is set up. That's the way it's worked, and it's worked really well for again, well over 100 years. So again, he's leading. We're giving advice. We'll use the influence we have to push West Virginia, we think, in the direction it should go. I don't think that we'll deviate very much. I mean, what I hear Governor Morsi talk a lot about is, less government, less regulations, moving West Virginia forward, being as efficient as government can be. I'm not sure efficiency and government belong in the same sentence, but I don't think we're going to deviate a lot, but I do feel like I have a lot of experience, and I want to share that with the appropriate people at the appropriate time.
So I want to go back to the $400 million. So nobody has been able to tell me so far, we've asked this to a number of people, where that $400 million is, and it sounds like you don't really know where the $400 million shortfall is either. This is sounding like a number that, I'm casting no aspersions here, I don't mean this in a negative way, but a politician would use as a way to tee up a reason to start shrinking agencies and such as a justification for shrinking government. Does that have a feel like that to you?
Well, it could be, but the way the system works, or at least the way the system worked under the Justice Administration, is that we spent most of the fall and a little bit into the winter working on the budget. So we had budget hearings with every agency in the state. We invited the leadership of the Senate and House to participate in those meetings. So we had lots and lots of meetings over that period of time. And in those meetings, every agency will bring two things in. They'll bring kind of their regular budget, the things that they've done in for always and so forth. But then they'll also bring what in government speak is called improvements. Improvements are additional spending. So when you look at those improvements, if you will, people have different perspective as to what they think is necessary and what they don't think is necessary. Even with their regular budget, which in government speak they call the base budget, there's different opinions as to what's necessary there and what's not necessary. So it's really easy for two people to look at those numbers, those reports that come in, and they're all written, and come up with different numbers at the end of the day. So and again, $400 million is a lot of money, definitely where I grew up in Hernshaw. But out of respect of a $5.3 billion budget, what is it, 6 or 7% or whatever the number is, maybe 8%. So it's really easy for me to see how two people come up with the different stuff. But what happens next week is Governor Morsi will present a balanced budget to the legislature. So he will make his decisions as to how he wants to close that gap. There's a lot of different directions you can go. We're really looking forward to doing that. I think when he made the announcement about the $400 million, he was fresh his first 2 or 3 days in. That's what people were telling him. He just wanted to put a notice. I think he just wanted to put a notice out. Hey guys, this budget's basically what I read at it. This budget's going to be tight. But we knew it was going to be tight the next couple of years because of the large, really the historic tax cuts in West Virginia. Also, at this point in time, our fossil fuel prices are down a little bit. Natural gas and coal. We're a natural resource state, so as those things go up, we have more money coming to state coffers. They go down, we have less. So that this fiscal year, next fiscal year is going to be tight. This current fiscal year is going to be tight. It's not a surprise to anyone. So we'll get through that. Governor Morsi is going to present his budget. It'll be very illuminating as to the direction he wants to take the state. I look forward to getting behind him. I think next Wednesday will be a good day, and then we'll start breaking it down and looking at it, and we'll do everything we can to get him to where he wants to be.
Treasurer Larry Pack, our guest here on the program. The Chinese, in response to the Trump tariffs, have said they will levy a 15% tariff on, among other things, coal. Do you know if any of that coal is West Virginia coal?
Oh, sure. We're a huge exporter of coal to China, so it is something we're watching. But as you could see from what happened in Canada and Mexico, is we made these announcements one day, and then a couple of days later there's some negotiations going. So part of this is a negotiation situation with President Trump. President Trump's trying to protect the United States interests, and he's going to fight. He is fighting hard for the United States. And part of his fighting is negotiating with countries to make sure that we're getting a fair shake in all the different issues that consist between the two countries. So I feel good about what he's doing. I'm so excited about President Trump and the things that he is doing to protect our country, to downsize government. It's just like music to my ears. So it's something we're watching, and we need to watch. But the coal industry is a international, it's a worldwide business. So what happens sometimes if coal gets too expensive for one country, we sell it to another country. So we still feel really good about it. The biggest problem that I think we have with respect to coal exports in China is that their economy's a mess, which is what you get when you have top down. And so the demand that's coming out of China for coal was really relaxed than what we saw a few years ago. And I think also part of what President Trump is trying to teach them or trying to help them understand is that they need to get their economy right and get it in order. So, again, got a lot of confidence in President Trump, his team. He's hit the ground running, and he's a big fossil fuel guy. He talked all about, drilling, digging coal. He's going to protect West Virginia. And with Senator Justice up there by his side, I feel like we're really in good spot.
And I only have about a minute left. I asked Senate Finance Chairman Jason Barrett this yesterday, and that is in regards to any federal spending freezes. Is that something that you're monitoring, and do you feel it may affect West Virginia in any way?
Well, we'll have to watch that. But I think what President Trump's trying to get to is just the outrageous spending that is of no benefit to anybody other than the people that are getting the checks, which is what we saw in the USAID thing. So I don't, he's not attacking Medicaid, he's not attacking Medicare, but he is attacking these made-up jobs that we're spending billions of dollars on. And more power to him. I'm cheering him on. So, I think they wrote that executive order a little broader than they expected, but they pulled it back. So they're getting it right. Again, his team is phenomenal, but we are absolutely wasting money that is just absolutely going to fall on the shoulders of our grandchildren or great-grandchildren. I'm so glad that we finally got a president that's going to deal with it.
Larry, maybe we'll see you this spring, right?
Yes, sir. I'm going to try to come out there in March, so I'll contact you and see if we can work out a time.
Please do, sir.
All right, take care. You guys have a good day.
Thank you.
You too.
Treasurer
Thank you. Bye.
Larry Pack, as we stop at the top of the